The first part of the story begins with a wide, sweeping view of the desolate frontier, a landscape defined by endless stretches of dust, sparse vegetation, and the distant silhouette of jagged hills. This is a land untouched by modern civilization, where survival depends on grit, resourcefulness, and the ability to read both the land and the people inhabiting it. The town of Dry Creek, a small cluster of wooden buildings along the dusty main street, is known to outsiders as a place of tension, a borderland between settlers and the Comanche tribe that roams the surrounding plains. Life here is harsh, and the residents are equally hardened, wary of strangers, and quick to judge any unusual behavior. On a particularly hot, sun-beaten afternoon, a lone rider appears on the horizon. His horse moves with a measured, confident gait, a rhythm that seems to echo the slow heartbeat of the town itself. The cowboy atop the horse is a figure of intrigue, tall, lean, with weathered skin darkened by years under the sun, and piercing, eyes that seem to see more than just the physical world around him. His clothing is simple but well-worn, showing signs of long journeys, yet hints of wealth and care peek through. Fine leather boots polished despite the dust, a silver buckle glinting in the sun, and a well-kept revolver at his side. He exudes an aura of self-assured mystery, the kind of presence that immediately commands attention without uttering a word. As he rides into town, the residents begin to gather. Men pause their work at the blacksmith's forge, women stop tending to their small gardens, and children peek curiously from behind wooden fences. The town's saloon doors swing open, and even the local lawman, a grizzled figure with more experience in bar fights than diplomacy, steps forward cautiously. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who is he? Where did he come from? And most importantly, why is he here alone, unaccompanied, and seemingly unafraid of the town's wary eyes? The cowboy's arrival is only made more intriguing by what follows. Him, a group of Comanche captives, visibly restrained, being herded into the town square by a few armed men. Among them is a young girl, shackled at the wrists and ankles, her posture proud despite the chains. She moves with a grace and strength that betray her captivity, and her eyes, dark and defiant, seem to challenge the very men who hold her. There is an unspoken tension in the air. The settlers regard the captives with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and moral uncertainty. Many have been raised with prejudices and long-held stories of conflict, yet they cannot help but notice the girl's resilience and courage. The cowboy dismounts smoothly, his movements deliberate and calm, and he surveys the crowd with a steady gaze. There is no malice in his expression, nor desperation, just an enigmatic purpose. He walks slowly toward the town's center, each step measured as if weighing the ground beneath him, acknowledging the collective attention he commands. The townsfolk instinctively step back, a mixture of caution and fascination rippling through the gathering. Children cling to their mothers' skirts, and men exchange uneasy glances. Something about this man tells them he is not ordinary, and perhaps not entirely predictable. As he reaches the center of the square, the cowboy pauses before the shackled Comanche girl. His gaze lingers on her longer than on anyone else, and a quiet curiosity emanates from his stance. The town feels the weight of his focus. Even the captors glance nervously at him, unsure whether his attention is a threat or a promise. The girl meets his gaze head-on, her eyes narrowing slightly, trying to read the intentions of the man who has entered their lives so abruptly. In that instant, a silent understanding passes between them. He is different from the others. Yet, her caution is unwavering. She has survived too many hardships to lower her guard for anyone, even someone who seems calm and unthreatening. The moment is laden with tension, curiosity, and unspoken questions. The cowboy's mysterious arrival sets the stage for conflict and revelation, immediately placing the central characters, the enigmatic outsider and the defiant Comanche girl, at the heart of the narrative. The townsfolk, too, become secondary, yet essential characters, their reactions reflecting the broader cultural tensions, fears, and prejudices of the frontier. Through this initial arrival, the story establishes the landscape, introduces key characters, and creates a charged atmosphere that foreshadows the complex interactions, moral dilemmas, and eventual transformations to come. By the end of this first part, readers are immersed in the dusty, tense world of Dry Creek, aware of the mysteries surrounding the cowboy and the shackled girl, and primed to follow the unfolding drama of power, culture, and unexpected alliances. The scene ends with a lingering sense of suspense. The cowboy's purpose is unknown, the girl's fate uncertain, and the town's response unpredictable. Every eye in the square watches the silent standoff, waiting to see what will happen next. The tension in the town square remains palpable as the cowboy, having assessed the scene with a quiet, measured gaze, finally speaks. His voice, low but commanding, carries over the murmuring crowd. "I'm offering any bride in this town," he declares, pausing to let the words sink in. "Free of cost." The effect is immediate. A stunned silence falls over Dry Creek. Men exchange bewildered looks, eyebrows raised, women gasp behind their hands, and children, sensing something unusual, freeze in place. Even the local lawman leans on his gun belt, his expression caught between suspicion and astonishment. Whispers ripple through the crowd. The idea of a wealthy stranger offering a bride at no cost is both unprecedented and alarming. The townspeople cannot understand his motives. Some suspect a scam, a trap to exploit families or gain leverage over the town. Others, hardened by years of frontier hardship, are cautious, sensing danger but intrigued nonetheless. The concept challenges their social norms, their sense of propriety, and even their moral compass. It is a bold act that shakes the foundations of what they thought they knew about strangers and the codes of the land. Amidst the commotion, the cowboy's gaze remains fixed on the shackled Comanche girl. Her presence dominates the square despite her restraints. The other townsfolk seem to notice her only in passing, distracted by their own speculations, but the cowboy's attention signals something different: recognition, perhaps even respect. Naomi, as she is later known, does not react immediately. Her expression remains stoic, a mixture of defiance and caution. Yet inwardly she is aware of the significance of the moment. A free choice, if the offer truly allows it, is something foreign in her world, where her autonomy has long been curtailed. Families of eligible women gather to discuss the implications in hushed tones. Mothers glance at daughters with mixed emotions, excitement, concern, and confusion. Fathers frown, debating the prudence of entertaining such an offer. Some of the older settlers, guided by experience and suspicion, warn of hidden consequences. They speak of past encounters with outsiders, of schemes gone wrong, and of the potential for tragedy. The cowboy listens to none of these protests, his composure unshaken, signaling that his intentions are not for public debate. They are personal, deliberate, and directed at someone specific. The crowd's attention shifts as the shackled girl catches their eye. She is unlike anyone in the town. Her posture is upright despite the chains, her movements controlled yet graceful, her eyes alert and calculating. Nayeli embodies a quiet strength that commands respect, even from those predisposed to fear her. The townsfolk, while unsure of her origins or loyalties, cannot ignore her presence. There is something magnetic about her, a mixture of resilience and vulnerability that draws attention to the cowboy's focus on her. It becomes clear, even to the skeptical onlookers, that she is the true center of the moment. The cowboy steps closer, his boots crunching against the dust-laden ground, and addresses the girl directly. "You have a choice," he says calmly, yet with unmistakable authority. "No one can claim you against your will. You are free to accept or refuse. The decision is yours alone." The square holds its collective breath. This declaration is unlike anything the townsfolk have heard. In a world where women, especially those outside the settlers' community, often had little say in their destinies, the cowboy's words are revolutionary. Nayeli processes this, her mind racing to evaluate the sincerity and risks inherent in this freedom. Tension escalates as murmurs grow into louder debate among the onlookers. Some accuse the cowboy of arrogance or folly, daring to interfere in cultural and social norms. Others whisper about potential alliances or power shifts, imagining the advantages to families whose daughters might be chosen. Nayeli, however, remains unmoved by the speculation. Her focus is solely on the man standing before her and the possibility of agency in a world that has largely denied her it. As the moment stretches, the cowboy's demeanor reassures some skeptics. He does not push, coerce, or intimidate. There is no hint of manipulation. His offer, as shocking as it is, seems genuine. Slowly, a tentative curiosity emerges from the crowd, mingled with caution. They begin to sense that the significance of this offer is not merely transactional. It carries moral, social, and cultural weight. The cowboy's intent seems to transcend wealth or desire. It is about choice, respect, and perhaps redemption for past grievances or debts. As the sun climbs higher over Dry Creek, the air in the town square seems to thicken with tension. The cowboy's audacious offer has left the settlers in a state of bewildered suspense, but beneath the immediate shock lies a deeper, more complex layer of conflict, the long-standing cultural tensions between the settlers and the Comanche people. For decades, mutual suspicion, past skirmishes, and the harsh realities of frontier life have defined their interactions. While settlers view the Comanche as outsiders, sometimes enemies, sometimes inconvenient neighbors, the tribe views the settlers as encroachers on their ancestral lands, often aggressive and untrustworthy. These historical grievances hang heavy in the square, coloring every gaze and every whispered conversation. The cowboy, aware of the delicate balance, moves deliberately, neither dismissive nor confrontational. He understands that the chains binding Nayeli, the young Comanche girl, are not merely physical restraints but symbols of a much larger struggle. They represent the systemic oppression faced by her people at the hands of settlers and the complicated dynamics of power in the region. The crowd begins to notice that he treats her differently than the others, with a cautious respect that hints at a deeper understanding of the tension at play. His gaze, steady yet not invasive, communicates something unusual in this world. Acknowledgement of her autonomy and dignity, even in captivity. Nayeli herself is acutely aware of the nuances in the square. Every movement of the cowboy, every glance and every word is analyzed with precision. She is not naive. She knows that appearances can be deceiving and that promises in this land are often hollow. Yet, she senses that there is a difference in his approach. While the settlers murmur and argue, projecting their fears and prejudices, he maintains an air of impartiality. Nayeli feels a cautious curiosity stir within her, a rare acknowledgement that someone outside her tribe may see her as an individual, not merely a captive or a symbol of conquest. Meanwhile, the town elders gather to deliberate in low tones. They are men and women who have lived through the violent ebb and flow of frontier life and understand the danger of underestimating cultural sensitivities. Some argue that the cowboy's offer could provoke retaliation from the Comanche tribe, escalating conflicts that have been simmering quietly for years. Others contend that it presents an opportunity to bridge gaps, a chance for dialogue, or at least an unprecedented act of respect toward the tribe. Their debates are heated, reflecting the depth of fear, suspicion, and cautious hope that permeates the town. The story then shifts briefly to provide insight into Nayeli's personal history, giving depth to her presence in the square. She was born into a tribe that prized freedom, courage, and honor, but her life has been marked by hardship. Early encounters with settlers left scars, both physical and emotional, that have shaped her wary approach to outsiders. Her family's suffering under prior injustices makes her acutely sensitive to intentions, promises, and deceptions. Yet, she is also resilient, resourceful, and deeply intelligent, qualities that allow her to navigate the treacherous space between the two cultures. This backstory is crucial for readers to understand why Nayeli does not immediately respond to the cowboy's offer and why her internal deliberation carries so much weight. The cowboy, meanwhile, subtly demonstrates knowledge of Comanche customs and social codes. His gestures, though simple, indicate respect. He avoids direct physical contact without invitation, refrains from patronizing tones, and speaks with measured clarity. These actions distinguish him from the other settlers, many of whom treat Nayeli as a commodity or a curiosity. The townsfolk begin to notice this difference, though their understanding is clouded by skepticism and ingrained biases. Some start to question whether he is truly an outsider or someone with a nuanced past involving both worlds. A critical moment emerges when the cowboy addresses the crowd about the nature of his offer. He clarifies that it is not an act of conquest or coercion, but a genuine chance for the girl to exercise choice, an idea almost revolutionary in the context of the frontier, where women, and especially those from the Comanche tribe, often had little control over their destinies. His words resonate with Nayeli, planting a seed of cautious trust. She recognizes that her decision carries not just personal consequences, but symbolic weight, challenging societal norms and the rigid hierarchies of both cultures. The narrative reveals that the cowboy, named Cole, carries a personal debt that binds him to the Comanche tribe in ways that extend beyond mere curiosity or moral obligation. Years earlier, during a period of violent conflict on the frontier, he had come across a Comanche family under attack by rival settlers. Though outnumbered, Cole had intervened to save a young mother and her children, an act that went largely unnoticed at the time but left a lasting impression on the tribe. The mother's survival had meant that her daughter, Nayeli's elder sibling, continued to uphold the traditions and values of the Comanche people. Now, years later, Cole finds himself in a position to repay this debt indirectly by ensuring the safety and freedom of Nayeli. Nayeli, for her part, senses that there is more to Cole than a wealthy stranger offering free choice. Her instinct, honed by years of navigating a world filled with danger and duplicity, tells her that his calm demeanor and careful words are not superficial. She notices small details, how he avoids treating her as a possession, how he shows an awareness of the power dynamics in the square, and how he addresses the settlers without condescension. These cues, subtle yet significant, stir in her a cautious curiosity. Though wary, she begins to consider the possibility that this man may be different from anyone she has encountered before, someone capable of genuine respect and fairness. The town, meanwhile, continues to react in its usual mixture of suspicion and fascination. Some of the settlers begin to whisper among themselves that Cole might have connections with the Comanche tribe or knowledge of its customs, but their curiosity is clouded by fear and prejudice. Elders argue over the implications of his apparent relationship with the tribe, wondering whether it could lead to reprisal or reconciliation. The uncertainty heightens the tension in the square, making the cowboy's next moves pivotal. Cole, aware of the unspoken scrutiny, maintains a measured composure, signaling to both Nayeli and the crowd that his actions are deliberate and guided by principles rather than opportunism. Cole takes deliberate steps to demonstrate his understanding of cultural nuances. He addresses Nayeli with a rare blend of familiarity and respect, acknowledging the strength and resilience she embodies. He refrains from making grand promises or gestures of dominance, instead offering small, sincere acts of recognition that carry weight precisely because they are not performative. Nayeli observes these actions carefully, noting the difference between him and the settlers, who see her as a symbol of conquest or a bargaining piece. Her trust does not come easily, yet she begins to see that Cole's motives may align with her own desire for autonomy and safety. This connection is further deepened by shared knowledge of the land. Cole demonstrates a familiarity with the terrain surrounding Dry Creek, the rivers and valleys, and the hidden trails known only to the Comanche. This knowledge signals a history of engagement with the tribe that goes beyond superficial interaction. It suggests a bond forged through experience, shared danger, and mutual respect. Nayeli begins to understand that his offer is not a whimsical gesture, but the result of a moral and personal obligation rooted in history. At this stage, the narrative emphasizes the internal conflict Nayeli faces. While her instinct cautions her against trusting outsiders, the hints of Cole's past actions and understanding of her people spark a careful contemplation. She realizes that her choice, whether to accept his offer or reject it, carries broader implications. It is not just about personal freedom, but about acknowledging someone who has shown, even indirectly, loyalty and respect to her community. The seeds of trust, though fragile, begin to take root. As the town of Dry Creek processes the cowboy's audacious declaration, tensions begin to mount, not from the Comanche girl, Nayeli, but from the settlers themselves. Part 5 focuses on the resistance the town mounts against Cole's unusual offer and explores how fear, pride, and entrenched social norms collide to create conflict. While the cowboy's intentions are noble, the townsfolk cannot immediately see beyond their own suspicions, biases, and territorial instincts. The murmurs of skepticism escalate into heated arguments among families, neighbors, and town elders. Some settlers view the offer as an affront to their societal norms, where marriages are meant to be negotiated within families or at least within the local community. The idea of an outsider freely choosing a bride, especially a Comanche girl, feels subversive, threatening the established hierarchies. Older settlers warn of the consequences of crossing cultural boundaries, citing past skirmishes with the tribe and suggesting that Nayeli's freedom might incite violent retaliation. Younger settlers, however, intrigued by the cowboy's wealth and seeming confidence, debate whether this is a chance for opportunity or merely a reckless gamble. Resistance manifests in multiple ways. Some outspoken men challenge Cole directly, questioning his authority to make such an offer. "Who do you think you are, handing out brides like cattle?" one shouts, his voice echoing across the square. Others conspire in whispers, plotting to undermine the cowboy's influence or to intimidate Nayeli into submission. The sheriff, trying to maintain order, finds himself caught between the settlers' anger, the girl's dignity, and the cowboy's calm authority. The tension is palpable, and the potential for violence lingers just beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Nayeli remains the center of attention, though she does not act impulsively. Her survival instincts are finely tuned. She understands the delicate dynamics in play and watches both the settlers and Cole carefully. Each gesture, glance, and tone from the crowd is analyzed. She recognizes that she cannot fully trust the townsfolk whose motives are clouded by fear, greed, and prejudice. Yet she also senses that Cole's presence is a stabilizing force, a buffer against the town's hostility. His measured words and unwavering gaze reinforce the idea that her choice, though difficult and fraught with risk, is genuinely hers. Cole, aware of the resistance around him, takes a deliberate approach to de-escalate tensions. He does not argue or shout. Instead, he demonstrates his integrity through action. Small gestures, ensuring Nayeli's shackles remain visible as a reminder of her freedom, avoiding physical dominance, and speaking calmly to both her and the crowd, signal that his intentions are honorable. By refusing to engage in the settlers' posturing, he subtly shifts the focus from confrontation to contemplation. The townsfolk, while still skeptical, begin to notice that Cole's confidence is not born of arrogance, but of experience and principle. The story explores the psychological dimensions of the resistance. Fear plays a major role. Many settlers cannot imagine allowing a Comanche girl the agency to choose her own path. Prejudice fuels suspicion, as decades of historical conflict create automatic assumptions about intent and loyalty. Pride and ego further complicate matters, especially for men who view Cole as a challenge to their authority or social dominance. Yet beneath all this resistance is a quiet fascination. The settlers cannot entirely ignore the novelty of the situation, the courage of Nayeli, or the cowboy's audacity. During this period, small acts of tension highlight the town's dynamics. Some settlers attempt to physically separate Nayeli from Cole, stepping into the space between them. Others question whether the cowboy is wealthy enough to make good on his offer or whether he has ulterior motives. Children, observing silently, notice the stark contrasts between adults' fear and the girl's courage, planting seeds for future understanding. These micro-interactions enrich the narrative, emphasizing that resistance is not monolithic but expressed differently across age, gender, and social standing. The cultural clash intensifies when elders attempt to negotiate or control the situation, insisting that Nayeli's fate be decided within the confines of settler law or traditional arrangements. Cole responds not with confrontation, but by reaffirming that the girl's autonomy must be respected. Nayeli absorbs this carefully, realizing that her freedom is contingent not only on Cole's integrity, but also on her own judgment and courage. The story emphasizes that her agency is emerging in a hostile environment where resistance is external, yet deeply intertwined with internal deliberation. The town, still wary of Cole's unprecedented offer, begins to disperse somewhat, leaving the square quieter but no less tense. Some settlers linger at the edges, watching events unfold with suspicion. This relative calm allows for a series of interactions between Cole and Nayeli that are not overshadowed by immediate confrontation. Cole takes care not to pressure her. Instead, he engages in small, deliberate gestures of reassurance. He unfastens the shackles for short intervals, letting her hands rest freely, yet never overstepping the boundaries of her comfort. Each gesture, though modest, conveys respect, signaling that he recognizes her autonomy rather than viewing her as a mere object of possession. Nayeli observes Cole with measured attention. Her life has trained her to detect deception and to guard her trust carefully. She notices that his actions are consistent with his words. He neither coerces nor commands, and his eyes, once inscrutable, begin to convey sincerity and patience. For the first time in many years, Nayeli feels a faint possibility that someone outside her tribe might recognize her as an individual capable of making her own choices. This subtle realization sparks a cautious warmth, laying the foundation for the bond that will develop throughout the story. Their connection deepens through shared experiences that test courage and judgment. For instance, when a few skeptical settlers attempt to challenge Cole's authority and intimidate Nayeli, he intervenes with calm decisiveness. Without resorting to aggression, he diffuses the situation, demonstrating both physical skill and emotional intelligence. Nayeli witnesses this firsthand, recognizing that Cole's strength is paired with restraint and a respect for fairness. These small demonstrations of integrity gradually erode her instinctive wariness, opening the door to tentative trust. In addition, Cole and Nayeli begin communicating in ways that transcend words alone. Simple gestures, eye contact, and shared glances convey understanding. Cole learns to read Nayeli's expressions, recognizing when she is uncomfortable, alert, or contemplative. Nayeli, in turn, begins to interpret the subtle nuances of his demeanor, his pauses, the tone of his voice, and the careful way he positions himself relative to her. These exchanges, silent yet potent, reinforce the growing recognition that their interaction is not transactional, but relational. As the narrative progresses, the story explores the emotional dimensions of their bond. Nayeli slowly shares fragments of her personal history, recounting the hardships she has endured, the cultural traditions that shaped her, and the family she lost to frontier violence. Cole listens attentively, responding with empathy but never intrusion. He shares glimpses of his own past as well, how he came to the frontier, the debts of honor that guide his actions, and the loneliness that accompanies a life spent between cultures. Through these exchanges, readers gain insight into why their connection is significant. It is grounded in mutual recognition, respect, and an understanding of shared principles. The town's skepticism provides an external pressure that further strengthens their bond. Facing opposition together, Cole and Nayeli learn to rely on one another, forging a partnership that combines courage, strategic thinking, and emotional resilience. Nayeli observes that his protection is not a blanket of control, but a framework that allows her to make choices within the constraints of her environment. Cole recognizes her intelligence and resourcefulness, realizing that she is not a passive participant, but a partner in navigating the delicate situation in Dry Creek. Important turning point in this part occurs during a quiet moment after a minor confrontation with settlers. Cole and Nayeli find themselves alone in a shaded corner of the square, away from prying eyes. Cole speaks softly, acknowledging her strength and reaffirming that her freedom is hers to claim. Nayeli, moved by the combination of respect and genuine concern, allows herself a rare moment of vulnerability, signaling the first true signs of trust. This moment is crucial. It marks the transition from cautious curiosity to a nascent partnership, setting the stage for more significant collaboration and mutual reliance in the chapters to come. The town, still wary of Cole's unprecedented offer, begins to disperse somewhat, leaving the square quieter but no less tense. Some settlers linger at the edges, watching events unfold with suspicion. This relative calm allows for a series of interactions between Cole and Nayeli that are not overshadowed by immediate confrontation. Cole takes care not to pressure her. Instead, he engages in small, deliberate gestures of reassurance. He unfastens the shackles for short intervals, letting her hands rest freely, yet never overstepping the boundaries of her comfort. Each gesture, though modest, conveys respect, signaling that he recognizes her autonomy rather than viewing her as a mere object of possession. The narrative begins with word reaching the town that Comanche warriors have been dispatched to investigate the situation. They approach cautiously, aware of the potential danger posed by both settlers and outsiders, but determined to ensure the safety of one of their own. This development instantly complicates the dynamics in Dry Creek. The settlers' fear of cultural conflict intensifies, while Nayeli is forced to confront her obligations to her tribe and the unfamiliar feelings she has begun to develop toward Cole. She stands at the center of a triangle of loyalties, caught between her community, her newfound sense of autonomy, and the trust she is tentatively placing in a man from the very culture that has often threatened her people. Cole, sensing the arrival of the warriors, maintains his composed exterior. He understands the delicate balance required. He must protect Nayeli without undermining her agency, respect the traditions and authority of the Comanche, and simultaneously prevent the settlers from panicking or escalating the conflict. His previous actions have established his credibility with Nayeli, but this confrontation represents a true test. His loyalty to her freedom and safety will be visible not just in words, but in his actions under pressure. As the warriors draw near, Nayeli experiences an internal struggle. Her instincts urge her to return to the tribe, seeking the comfort of familiar protection and cultural solidarity. Yet her experiences with Cole have introduced a new perspective, one in which trust and mutual respect are possible across cultural divides. The decision is far from simple. It requires her to weigh personal safety against newfound autonomy, the past against potential futures. Her loyalty to herself and her tribe is tested, forcing her to reconcile conflicting desires and fears. Cole's strategy is both pragmatic and respectful. He does not attempt to coerce Nayeli. Instead, he speaks openly with her, acknowledging the legitimacy of her choices and emphasizing that her safety remains paramount. Simultaneously, he uses his knowledge of both the settlers and the Comanche to broker a temporary understanding, ensuring that tensions do not erupt into immediate violence. He demonstrates courage, intelligence, and cultural sensitivity, all of which are critical in earning the trust of both Nayeli and the approaching warriors. This approach contrasts sharply with the reactive aggression of many townsfolk who rely on intimidation and force rather than understanding and negotiation. Critical scene unfolds when Nayeli steps forward to address the arriving warriors. Her voice, firm and resolute, communicates both her appreciation for their concern and her assertion of autonomy. She acknowledges Cole's role, not as a conqueror or adversary, but as someone who has acted with integrity and respect. In doing so, she demonstrates moral courage, earning the respect of both her tribe and the town. Cole watches, quietly supportive, allowing her to assert her voice and navigate the confrontation on her own terms. This moment is a defining test of loyalty. Cole's allegiance to Nayeli's freedom, rather than his desire to control outcomes, is made evident through his restraint and guidance. The tension escalates further when a faction of skeptical settlers attempts to interfere, misinterpreting the presence of the warriors as a threat. Cole skillfully mediates, ensuring that the confrontation does not turn violent. Nayeli observes this dynamic, recognizing that his loyalty is not limited to his own interests, but extends to her well-being, even under extreme pressure. The scene underscores a central theme. Loyalty is not blind obedience, but a conscious commitment to respect, protect, and uphold the rights of others, even in the face of personal risk. As the confrontation resolves, the warriors withdraw with assurances that Nayeli's well-being will be monitored, leaving both her and Cole with a renewed sense of mutual understanding. The test of loyalty has been passed, not through grand gestures of dominance, but through measured action, respect, and the recognition of autonomy. Both characters emerge stronger. Nayeli more confident in her ability to make her own choices, and Cole reaffirmed in his commitment to honor and integrity. The scene begins with the town square once again filling with anxious settlers. Word spreads quickly that a contingent of Comanche warriors has approached Dry Creek, not only to check on Nayeli, but also to assert their authority and protect their own. Simultaneously, some factions of townsfolk, fueled by suspicion and distrust, arm themselves and gather at strategic points around the square. What was once cautious curiosity turns to open hostility, and the atmosphere is charged with the potential for chaos. Every glance, gesture, and step is scrutinized. The tension is thick enough to feel physical. Nayeli, standing beside Cole, feels the weight of the moment. She understands that this confrontation is more than a test of physical strength. It is a clash of culture, morality, and perception. Her tribe's warriors are powerful and disciplined, yet she must balance her loyalty to them with the cautious trust she has begun to place in Cole. Likewise, she must manage her interactions with the settlers, whose fear and prejudice make them unpredictable and potentially violent. Her mind races as she considers her options, and every action she takes will have consequences far beyond the immediate square. Cole, fully aware of the stakes, positions himself strategically. He does not rely on brute force. Instead, he draws on his knowledge of both cultures, his understanding of human psychology, and his experience in negotiating high-risk situations. His approach is calm and deliberate, projecting authority without intimidation. He addresses the settlers first, reminding them that Nayeli's freedom is not a threat, but a matter of justice and morality. His words are measured but forceful, emphasizing that any act of aggression will only escalate the conflict. The confrontation escalates when a subset of settlers misinterpret the arrival of Comanche warriors as an imminent attack. Shouts erupt, and some begin moving aggressively toward the square's center. Cole reacts quickly, stepping between the groups, using his presence and reputation to slow the momentum. Nayeli observes, noting the distinction between his decisive action and the reckless bravado displayed by some townsfolk. She begins to recognize that his loyalty extends beyond words. He is willing to risk his own safety to protect her and prevent bloodshed. Meanwhile, the Comanche warriors, disciplined and commanding, move cautiously. They are initially wary of Cole, uncertain if his intentions align with their duty to safeguard Nayeli. However, through subtle signals, gestures of respect, controlled body language, and deliberate speech, Cole communicates his sincerity. He demonstrates that he is not seeking control over Nayeli, but rather supporting her autonomy. Nayeli's mediation, coupled with Cole's calm authority, begins to de-escalate the situation. The narrative intensifies as a brief physical clash nearly erupts between a belligerent settler and one of the warriors. Cole intervenes decisively, placing himself between the two and defusing the immediate threat through both physical presence and authoritative speech. Nayeli steps forward, asserting her voice to explain that she is safe and that the confrontation need not escalate. This is a defining moment for her. She is no longer a passive participant, but an active agent shaping the outcome of the conflict. The settlers, witnessing her courage and composure, begin to reassess their assumptions about her, and some of the Comanche warriors nod subtly, acknowledging her strength. Through negotiation, composure, and clear demonstration of moral authority, Cole manages to bring both groups to a tense but temporary truce. The confrontation does not end with a dramatic act of violence, but rather through the recognition that mutual respect, restraint, and understanding are more powerful than aggression. The settlers reluctantly withdraw from aggressive postures, and the warriors acknowledge that Nayeli's autonomy must be honored. The resolution highlights the central theme of the story. True power lies not in dominance, but in ethical judgment, empathy, and the courage to respect freedom and choice. The aftermath of the dangerous confrontation leaves the town and the Comanche tribe in a state of cautious reflection. Settlers who had initially viewed Nayeli as a pawn or an object are forced to reassess their assumptions. They have witnessed her courage, intelligence, and ability to negotiate her own fate. The Comanche warriors, too, observe that the cowboy, Cole, has acted with integrity and respect throughout, demonstrating that cross-cultural alliances can be built on ethical principles rather than domination or fear. The stage is set for the central moment, the recognition of Nayeli's freedom and her right to choose her own path. Cole approaches the shackled girl with deliberate calm, understanding that the symbolic and literal release of her shackles must be handled with dignity. The chains that once bound her are removed slowly, each link falling to the dusty ground with weighty significance. This act is not presented as a gesture of possession, but as a tangible acknowledgement of her autonomy. Nayeli, having endured years of oppression, fear, and cultural displacement, feels the profound gravity of this moment. For the first time, she has complete agency over her destiny, a power that has been denied to her since childhood. The narrative emphasizes Nayeli's internal deliberation. Though she now has the freedom to choose, the decision is not simple or immediate. She considers her options carefully, remaining with Cole, who has proven trustworthy and respectful, returning to her tribe where safety, familiarity, and cultural identity await, or forging a new path entirely, independent of both worlds. This internal conflict is central to the story, underscoring the message that freedom is meaningful only when paired with conscious, thoughtful choice. Nayeli's strength lies not merely in her courage or skill, but in her ability to weigh the consequences and assert her own will. Cole reinforces this sense of autonomy through his words and demeanor. He does not pressure her or attempt to influence her decision with wealth, charm, or moral obligation. Instead, he communicates clearly that her choice is hers alone, that her safety and dignity are his priorities regardless of the outcome. This reaffirmation of respect is crucial. It contrasts sharply with the expectations of the townsfolk, who often conflate care or attention with control. Nayeli's empowerment is not contingent on pleasing others. It is an assertion of her identity and agency. The townsfolk, witnessing the unfolding scene, are quietly transformed by Nayeli's actions. Some begin to question their own assumptions about cultural superiority, gender roles, and personal agency. The act of granting her freedom and observing her deliberate choice challenges their long-held prejudices and prompts a subtle cultural reckoning. For many, this is the first time they see a Comanche woman not as a captive or object, but as an individual capable of navigating complex social and moral landscapes. Ultimately, Nayeli makes her decision. She chooses a path that balances her sense of loyalty, her newfound autonomy, and her understanding of Cole's integrity. Whether she remains with him, returns to her tribe, or pursues a life independently, the narrative frames her choice as a testament to courage, wisdom, and self-determination. The emphasis is on the process of decision-making, the careful consideration of consequences, and the acknowledgement that true freedom is both a right and a responsibility. The story also addresses the broader implications of this moment. By affirming Nayeli's choice, Cole models a form of leadership grounded in respect, ethical responsibility, and moral courage. The town, having witnessed this transformative act, begins to reconcile with the cultural and social divides that have defined its history. While not all prejudices disappear immediately, the events surrounding Nayeli's freedom plant seeds of understanding, empathy, and cross-cultural respect. Part 9 concludes with a sense of resolution and hope. Nayeli stands liberated, her shackles removed, her agency recognized, and her choices respected. Cole and Nayeli share a moment of mutual recognition, an acknowledgement of trust, courage, and the bond that has developed between them. The town and tribe alike are compelled to reassess their perceptions, laying the groundwork for a more equitable and understanding frontier. The narrative emphasizes that freedom and choice are intertwined with responsibility, moral integrity, and the courage to challenge societal expectations. The chapter opens in the quiet aftermath of the confrontation and the affirmation of Nayeli's autonomy. The town, once tense and skeptical, has begun to adapt to the new reality. Some settlers still cling to old prejudices, but many have been influenced by the courage and dignity displayed by Nayeli, as well as Cole's principled intervention. The narrative underscores that societal change is gradual. Seeds of understanding are sown, even if not all biases are immediately eradicated. Observers in Dry Creek slowly recognize that respect, fairness, and moral courage have consequences far greater than force, intimidation, or social rigidity. Nayeli, now fully free, steps into this new chapter of her life with confidence tempered by wisdom. The experience of making her own choice has strengthened her sense of agency and self-respect. She no longer exists merely as a symbol of cultural conflict or a pawn in the power struggles of the frontier. She has emerged as an individual, capable of shaping her own destiny. Her relationship with Cole, built on trust, mutual respect, and shared trials, becomes a cornerstone of her new beginning. They share a quiet moment that signifies the depth of their bond, not just as potential partners, but as allies who have navigated danger and prejudice together. The story also highlights the practical implications of Nayeli's freedom. She has the opportunity to integrate her knowledge and perspective with the world beyond her tribe and the town. Her choices, whether to stay near Cole, return to her people, or carve out an independent life reflect the narrative's emphasis on autonomy and deliberation. The focus is not merely on romantic or social resolution, it is on empowerment, courage, and the ability to navigate complex cultural and social landscapes. Nayeli's actions inspire those around her to reconsider assumptions about strength, resilience, and the potential for positive change in relationships across cultural divides. Cole, too, experiences a transformation in this final part. His sense of purpose, shaped by past debts of honor and moral obligations, is validated through the affirmation of Nayeli's freedom. He demonstrates that integrity and ethical action can yield meaningful change, even in a world often defined by prejudice, greed, and violence. By supporting Nayeli's autonomy rather than seeking to control her, he models a form of leadership grounded in respect and ethical responsibility, reinforcing the story's central moral: true strength lies in honoring the freedom and dignity of others. The town of Dry Creek undergoes subtle but significant shifts. Witnessing Nayeli's courage and Cole's restraint prompts reflection among the settlers, many of whom begin to reassess long-held assumptions about gender, cultural differences, and the dynamics of power. While not all skepticism disappears, the narrative emphasizes that meaningful change often begins with a single transformative event. Here, the recognition of Nayeli's agency and the demonstration of principled courage. The story frames this as a catalyst for a slowly evolving social consciousness within the community, offering hope that understanding and empathy can grow even in the most rigid environments. Symbolism plays an important role in this final part. The removal of Nayeli's shackles, the quiet acknowledgement between her and Cole, and the respectful distance maintained by both settlers and Comanche warriors symbolize the potential for harmony between individuals and cultures. The open, sunlit town square contrasts sharply with the tense, dusty, and restrictive setting of the earlier parts, visually and metaphorically representing liberation, choice, and the promise of new beginnings. As the story draws to a close, the narrative reinforces that resolution is not a single moment, but a process of growth, understanding, and ongoing responsibility. Nayeli's freedom and choice represent both an ending and a beginning, an ending to her period of oppression and uncertainty, and a beginning of self-determined life, strengthened by courage, trust, and wisdom. Cole's journey, similarly, transitions from mystery and moral obligation to the satisfaction of having honored a commitment and fostered genuine understanding. The final scene emphasizes hope and possibility. Nayeli stands in the square, free and empowered, her future open to possibilities she now navigates with confidence. Cole remains by her side, not as a figure of dominance, but as a companion and ally. The town, while still imperfect, has witnessed a transformation in how freedom, respect, and moral courage can influence human behavior. The story closes with a sense of equilibrium achieved through ethical action, mutual respect, and the courage to honor one's principles.